Welcome to all. We may thinking that how children develop moral reasoning, whether they occur from the family or from the environment, or how is it related with their thinking process. In today's video, we are going to discuss about moral development of children. In this video, we will cover the points Piaget's theory of moral development, children's understanding of moral issues, the two main types of children's moral thinking, Gilligan's stages of ethics of care, and the three stages of moral reasoning by Gilligan. After watching this video, you should be able to develop understanding about Piaget's theory of moral development, to examine children's understanding of moral issues, to differentiate between heteronomous morality and autonomous morality, to develop understanding about Gilligan's stages of ethics of care, to classify the stages of moral reasoning according to Gilligan. What do we mean by moral development? Here, the moral development can be conceptualized as a process through which children develop the standards of right and wrong based on their societal norms or cultural norms and laws. Moral development is concerned with how people grow in understanding moral issues and in making moral decisions. While from childhood days it is necessary to develop this moral sense among children. Here, I would like to emphasize upon two theories. One, Piaget's theory of moral development, and the second one, the Gilligan's stages of moral development, or otherwise it is known as Gilligan's ethics of care. Piaget conceptualizes moral development as a constructive process. Why is it known as constructive process? Because it is the interplay of action and thought that builds upon the moral concepts. Piaget was not interested in what children do. Here, suppose playing a game, whether the children break the rules or not, he is not interested in that. But what he is interested? He is interested to know what they think. So here, he refers to as children's moral reasoning. And when we look at Piaget's cognitive development, before going to the details of Piaget's theory of moral development, I would like to emphasize that, like the stages in the cognitive development proposed by Piaget, he stated that there are also different stages in the moral development of children. There were universal stages to moral development of children. He emphasized the three main aspects of children's understanding of moral issues. Number one, children's understanding of rules. Number two, children's understanding of moral responsibility. Number three, children's understanding of justice. When we look at these three main aspects, it includes some important questions. Let me see what are the questions included in the first aspect, that is understanding of rules. Here, it leads us to ask some questions such as, who frames rules? Where do rules come from? Then another one, can we break the rule or not? So these are the questions that lead the first aspect. Coming to the second aspect, that is the understanding of moral responsibility, there the question is, who is to blame for bad things? Whether the bad things is the outcome of any bad behavior. And then the last question is there exist any difference between accidental and deliberate wrongdoing? So these are the three questions. Coming to the last aspect, that is understanding of justice, there also includes some questions such as, should the punishment fit the crime? Or we can state it as, whether the guilty person got the correct punishment. And the next one, are the guilty always punished or are they set free? So these are the questions coming in the mind of anybody who goes through these three aspects. Piaget also stated that there are two main types of moral thinking that took place among children, and he classified it as heteronomous morality and autonomous morality. Heteronomous morality is otherwise known as moral realism, and autonomous morality is otherwise known as moral relativism. Let me have a short elaboration on heteronomous morality. It took place when children entered the age 5 to 9 years. Here we can see some of the characteristics such as morality is imposed from outside. So who is imposing? The adults. Who are the adults? The parents, the societal laws, the teachers. So it is imposed from outside. And children regard morality as obeying other people's rules and laws which are unchangeable. They think that the rules and rules cannot be changed. It is fixed. Nobody can change the rule. All rules are framed by some authority figure. So nobody can question the rules. Nobody can change the rules. These are the thinking pattern of children. Breaking rules lead to severe punishment. So here we can see the concept of immanent justice. What do we mean by immanent justice? Immanent justice means if the punishment automatically follows the bad behavior, that is known as immanent justice. Again, when we look at the heteronomous morality, we can see that children tend to judge naughtiness in terms of the severity of the consequence rather than in terms of motive. If some person did any naughty thing or any bad thing, it is not seen in terms of motive but in terms of consequence. This is what Piaget called as moral realism. And when we look at children, we know that they saw the function of punishment as make the guilty suffer. Piaget called these as retributive justice or expiatory punishment. Why it is known as expiatory punishment? Because punishment is seen as an act of retribution or revenge. The children who did wrong thing, they will get punishment according to their bad behavior. The second one, that is the autonomous morality. And here, this autonomous morality, it took place between 9 to 10 years. Here, the morality is based on your own rules. Children recognize there is no absolute right or wrong and that morality depends on intentions, not consequences. And children consider moral rules from others' point of view. Children now understand that rules do not come from divine source as they think in the heteronomous morality. They think that it is coming from the authority figure who we cannot question. But here they come to understand that it is not from divine source. People make rules and people can change rules. On the basis of blame and moral responsibility, children never consider consequences but takes into account the motives behind the act. So that is very much important. What is the motive behind such type of bad action or any action which is not acceptable in society? That is because of the motive. That is not because of the consequences. Again, we can see that with regard to punishment, the emphasis now moves from retribution to restitution. Its purpose is not primarily to make the guilty suffer, but to put things right again. So, why we are punishing them is that to put the things in the right way, we do the punishment. Then Piaget describes the morality of the older child as an autonomous morality. That is a morality that is subject to its own laws. That is known as autonomous morality. And in place of the unilateral respect, the children owe to their parents an attitude of mutual respect governs relationships between peers. So here, in the heteronomous morality, what type of respect children are getting? That is only a unilateral respect. Because they obey parents as otherwise they would get punishment. That's why they obey parents. But in the case of this mutual respect, they are obeying parents out of love. Next, we are going to discuss about Gilligan's stages of ethics of care. Carol Gilligan has proposed a different sequence of moral development, and that is in the form of ethics of care. She debated that Kohlberg's theory of stages are biased in favor of males, and it is framed in a male-dominant society. It do not represent the way moral reasoning develops in women because he conducted a longitudinal study of men only. According to Gilligan, women are likely to think of right and wrong in terms of care and relationship, whereas men tend to think in terms of rules and justice. So always that caring and relationship are the prime importance for women, whereas rules and justice are prime importance for men. When we look at the Gilligan's ethics of care, there are 3 stages of moral reasoning. They can be classified as pre-conventional morality, conventional morality, and post-conventional morality. What does this stage 1 includes? Here, in the pre-conventional morality, we can see that the goal of this stage is individual survival. This is a transitional stage from selfishness to responsibility to others. One is motivated to act by deciding what is best for oneself. So here, always in an egocentric way we are thinking. The egocentrism is always dominating oneself. So based on one's own satisfaction, they will frame the moral rules. Coming to the second stage, that is conventional morality, this stage says that self-sacrifice is goodness. We have to live for others. And this stage, transition is from goodness to the truth of the situation. One is motivated to perform actions which are based on what will care for and benefit others. We are working for others' benefit. So, some kind of selfless service is coming here. That is the second stage, conventional morality. So, we have seen in the pre-conventional morality, always the egocentrism is dominating, whereas in the conventional morality, we are thinking in terms of others' perspective and for the well-being of others. Coming to the third stage, that is termed as post-conventional morality, this stage favors the principle of non-violence. It proposes not to hurt others or the self. That hurting oneself, that is wrong. If we get anything wrong, that doesn't mean that we have to hurt oneself or hurt others. One learns that it is just as wrong to ignore one's own interest as it is to ignore the interest of others. So, if we are not doing our own duties or not satisfying our own demands, that is wrong. If we are not satisfying others' demands also, that is wrong. So, this is the level at the third stage. One comes to understand that a relation involves two people, and if either one is offended, it troubles the relationship. So, here we can see that what is important in one's life. Suppose we are taking some kind of action, we have to think whether that consequence will affect oneself or whether it affects others. If it affects oneself and others, we have to modify the act. So, this is about Gilligan's ethics of care. So, in this session, we have discussed about what do you mean by moral development and how Piaget's theory of moral development works among children. When we look at this, we can know that from the egocentric stage, the children are developing and considering morality as in terms of others' goodness. And lastly, we have discussed the Gilligan's ethics of care. So, how the developing morality among children is taking place, we have seen, and we can give some kind of moral dilemmas to children to know their moral reasoning power or their moral decision making. So, this is the way that we can check the students' level of moral development. So, we have seen Piaget's theory of moral development, the children's understanding of moral issues, the two main types of children's moral thinking, Gilligan's stages of ethics of care, and the three stages of moral reasoning by Gilligan.